Tell me your name and how you spell it.
Stewart Sokol, Sokol.
And Stewart is?
Stewart.
And your title is?
I'm the Director of HIV and AIDS Services for South Bay Free Clinic.
Okay. And when did you start at the Free Clinic?
Well, I actually
I'm just going to ask you questions to get you warmed up. So
okay. Well, because this was going to be my rap. Okay. my entrance into the clinic was.
Okay, well, you can give me your rap.
So.
It was kind of a hectic. The first month was kind of hectic.
It was an interesting adventure. The beginning of my tenure here. I actually started working on the 1st of November of 1991. Was introduced to the program by my predecessor, who proceeded to leave the following week, and on that particular day was the day that Magic Johnson announced that he was HIV positive, which just changed the face of HIV and AIDS in this country forever. So that was quite a transition period for me to enter a new job.
So you've only been on the job just a few weeks when this happened, just a week?
I was on the job a few days.
So you're just on the job a few days when this happens.
Right.
And this mega star all of a sudden humanizes the face of AIDS. And he also made it scary for a lot of people who didn't think they could be affected. Tell me about that.
Well, what he did was he brought to the attention of the general public the fact that anyone could actually be infected with HIV, and was intelligent enough to make his disclosure well known and known to the general population and to people of all races and all sexual behaviors and both genders, male and female, so that both men and women began to think, hey, maybe I have done something in the past that had put me at risk. So he actually was able to bring the general population to an awareness that we had been struggling for many years to try to do and weren't successful at. So we owe him a lot in terms of that. What
did it mean for you, though, in terms of some statistics? Because I'm sure that before that announcement, you had a certain level.
Well, let me talk about what the services are. First of all, we want to acknowledge the fact that South Bay Free Clinic was actually the first community-based organization in the entire South Bay to address HIV and AIDS. And they did that by getting some funding for what we call anonymous testing, HIV antibody testing. That happened actually as early as 1987, so it's quite remarkable that such a service organization in the South Bay was able to do that and created that. At the time that I came in, what was happening was that there was a testing going on Saturdays, all day Saturday, and Wednesday evenings. And we were testing at that time approximately 100 people a month. As soon as Magic Johnson announced his HIV status, that soared to 100 people a day on a Saturday and 30 or 40 people on a Wednesday evening in the period of 3 or 4 hours. So it was my job to make sure that we had enough volunteers available who were trained as HIV antibody test counselors to be at both locations and to absorb the impact of such an announcement and to make sure that the people who were coming to us for anonymous testing, free and anonymous testing, which was something unique at the time, were able to access the service and get the best quality service they could possibly get. So it was quite a challenge to do that, to find people who had already been trained because we didn't have time to train them, and to coax them and encourage them to come to South Bay Free Clinic and to do the work that needed to be done for the residents of the community. So that was quite exciting and quite a difficult task, but we succeeded. At the same time...
Tell me a little, I'm going to stop you for a
Sure.
second. Tell me a little bit about were there people who tested positive during that period who had no idea, I mean, that they could possibly have tested positive? It was a surprise.
Actually, we found many people at the time who were coming in because it seemed to have been the vogue to be tested at the time, and their friends were coming in, and often what would happen is that a friend or a relative had disclosed to someone that they may have put themselves at risk for this horrible infection. And so they would bring a spouse or a relative or a friend to the clinic as moral support, and that individual would test and go through the process, and we would find that they were actually HIV positive. So it became it became a process of us using every kind of counseling skill that we had in order to facilitate the counseling part of the sessions, but also to help people to recognize that there is support and that we can refer them to various things that are available for them. Now, at that time, we didn't have all of the things in place that we currently do. What we had at the time was the South Bay Free Clinic had gotten a grant, a very small grant at the time, to begin a women's outreach program, which was, I would assume, one of the first in the entire country, designed specifically to talk to women of childbearing age about the risk for HIV infection. And because we had a medical clinic with an STD program and a prenatal program, we were able to incorporate our HIV counseling and prevention program into those sessions. It's remarkable that the clinic had such a thing at the time. At the same time, when I did come into the position, I kind of wrote down about 10 different goals that I had and that I would like to see accomplished, because I recognized that there was nothing in the South Bay that would address the needs of people with HIV and AIDS. And having come from New York and having worked in Europe and England and Australia, I knew that once people would acknowledge the fact that they were HIV positive, they would be asking for services and that we needed to provide it. So, among the things that I had indicated that I wanted to build the program with was a buddy program, a case management program, some kind of education program for people about medicines. We now call that treatment advocacy, but we didn't even have that language back then. I also wanted to make sure that our education and prevention programs reached a very high-risk population, which was of youth. So, and in fact, we've reached all of those goals. So I'm very proud to say that where we were seeing approximately 100 people a month, we went up to seeing 600 and 700 people a month. We went up to from having maybe seeing 500 or 600 women in a year, we now see thousands of women, thousands of teenagers. We have outreach programs for women, specific behavior change model programs for high-risk youth. We have over currently 50 teenagers who are in our peer outreach program to talk to other teens about HIV and AIDS. We've trained, I would say, 300 or 400 teenagers in the South Bay to do that work over the past few years. We've seen over 250, 300 clients in our case management program, our buddy program. We have 150 people trained as buddies who go into people's homes and help take care of people with AIDS. And we've developed a coalition with agencies that provide services for Beach Cities residents. We call it Because Beach Cities AIDS Services, with its South Bay Free Clinic, Being Alive South Bay, Women at Risk, Mothers of AIDS Patients, and the AIDS Heartline, which provides food for people with HIV and AIDS. I believe in terms of the services that the South Bay Free Clinic can provide for people with HIV and AIDS, both infected and affected, is to develop a program, which we now have, that provides for psychosocial services and support for people with HIV and AIDS. The medical treatment, we have a number of different agencies throughout the county that provide outpatient medical care. However, the mental health program, the buddy support program, the case management program to get people into services and directly connected is our contribution to the fight against HIV and AIDS. And I'm very proud of the work that we do, and as well as the people who do it, the staff, that I have is absolutely remarkable, and I need to thank them for their dedication, their commitment, their skill, and their knowledge, and just love them. So.
I think a lot of people, when they hear the statistics of how many people you serve, are going to say in the South Bay there's that many people. Do you still find people who are surprised by the numbers?
Actually, you know, Los Angeles County is the second largest community in the United States for HIV and AIDS. It only is surpassed by New York. And the South Bay community, which I'm not including Long Beach, actually has 9 to 10% of all the cases of AIDS, and that was cumulative cases. Something like 14% of all the people currently living with AIDS in Los Angeles County. So we actually have thousands of people in our community that are infected with HIV and AIDS, yes.
And when somebody gets the diagnosis that they have HIV, there's a lot of things they need that they can access at the free clinic, but that didn't just happen overnight. I mean, this was I suppose, a real challenge.
This has been a challenge over the past.
Let me finish.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm going to say, tell me about how big a challenge it's been since you started until now, in as quickly a way as you can.
The challenge to meet the needs of the people that we serve, and even those people who don't come to us as yet, is one of funding, the need to raise the funds in order to provide the services free for the people who come to us and need the things that we do. So among the things that we do, besides providing the service and working 40 hours a week or 50 or 60 hours a week to do that, we also have to find ways in order to raise the funds in order to provide for these services. And that has been a major challenge. At the same time, developing programs that are meaningful for the clients and for the people in the community, and developing programs that would serve their needs. So putting that all together, it's a matter of having really good awareness as to what's going on in your community and what's available on the outside to provide for them.
When you started, when a person came into your organization with a diagnosis of HIV, what was there then that just not very much probably?
Back in 1991, there was very little that we could have done except giving them emotional support, hooking them up with a therapist, providing some kind of buddy to be with them during the agonizing events of the deterioration of their immune system and, quite frankly, through their death. Right now, through the miracles of science and research, we're able to provide medications or hook them up with referrals to outpatient medical centers for medications and treatments that would allow people to live a much longer lifespan with a better quality of life. At the same time, this also puts many demands on us to provide for the psychosocial aspect of their housing, their food, their support, emotional and mental health support. So all these things that combined, what we're seeing is that people are no longer perceive HIV as a death sentence as they did in 1991. On the other hand, they do need to recognize that no one has ever been cured of AIDS, and that at this point it's a very long, drawn-out process as well. So therefore, it's my staff that's there to do the job for as long as needed.
Change the shot. You're doing fine, by the way, in case you wonder. And because this is really a history of the free clinic, tell me where these volunteers that you speak so highly of, that are part of your, what are they like? Where do they come from? Is there a typical person who becomes a volunteer?
That's really a very interesting question, because actually the volunteers come from everywhere. I mean, we have retired nurses to airline attendants. We have students to physicians that come from other countries as volunteers. We have people who have been in gangs and people who have been in the political arena. So what we have is a total amalgam of all kinds of people. One of the things that speaks best for us, I think, is that I have on my staff currently a number of people who actually volunteered originally for the program and have developed the skills and the abilities that allowed me to actually hire them when positions came available. So we have moms and dads and brothers and sisters of people with HIV and AIDS, and we have a number of people that actually are infected as well working for us as volunteers. So we just have everything, and they come from everywhere. And that's why volunteer coordinator is a very important position at South Bay Free Clinic.
Okay. I'd like to get a statement in, if it's appropriate, that if the Free Clinic hadn't been there to do this back then, who would have that sort of thing? I mean, can you say something to that effect?
Let me think about it for a second.
Yeah. How would it have changed this community and what this community would be dealing with now? I mean, if you can kind of extrapolate. And I'm going to change the shot before you answer. Hold on just a second. Okay.
I actually, that's a very interesting question, because I find myself thinking in terms of being horrified at the thought that there wouldn't be an agency such as South Bay Free Clinic to do the work that needed to be done. I come from a history where there was nothing for people at the time that people first presented with AIDS, and we didn't even have AIDS as a name for it. And so there was absolutely no services available. People were reliant on their friends and relatives. In many cases, they were abandoned by those friends and relatives because of their fear and ignorance. And so, as I said, it kind of brings me back to the early 80s and mid 80s when we just had nothing, and it just horrifies me. I'm just pleased that, in fact, there was something like South Bay Free Clinic, and that it was here, and that I had the opportunity to help it grow into the kind of service and resource that it is for people with HIV and AIDS in our community.
Think about one person you know who's a very a person that's gotten a lot of services through your organization. I don't want you to name them, but how would their life be different if South Bay Free Clinic hadn't been there?
Actually, I think I'd like to start with with the buddy program, because the buddy program is this one-on-one relationship with someone who is trained. We do a 24-hour training, trained to help individuals deal with HIV and AIDS at all stages of the disease, and to be there specifically for the individual, not for the other relatives, not for the other friends, but specifically for the individual. That, in combination with the resources that are available through our case management program, makes a person's life tolerable and livable, whereas in many cases people would come to us almost homeless, or being ready to be abandoned, having lost their job because they've been too ill, having no money, no food, really at the end of the rope, not having any place to turn. And so we have so many people like that we were able to help, who are now in the community, working, feeling healthy, and doing the job that needs to be done for themselves and for the community. So if I think of one person, I mean, I remember we have one person who was actually at death's door. I mean, the family was actually holding vigil, and today he's gone back to school, became a minister actually, lectures all over, has appeared at our World AIDS Day events, and is just an incredible member of the general community, and has gotten from the support that we were able to give him. So those are the things that make it worthwhile.
Okay, and one last thing. If you can tell me just 3 or 4 or 5 things that we provide, and say it not in answer to a question, but as a statement, we provide hope, we provide friendship, we provide support for people, we provide, boom, 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 that'll be really good for me.
We provide hope, we provide security, we provide prevention, we provide a source of encouragement, and we provide for the heart. That is what we do. And when we do that, we have a healthy client and a healthy relationship and a healthy program.